Welcome to Candid Conversations. I'm your host, Jonathan Youssef, and today I'm joined by former NFL player and pastor Dave Hubbard to discuss his new book, You Are, You Will Become. It's a powerful look at Simon Peter's transformation, faith, and what it means to let God remake your life. Well, we do like our repeat guests here. And Dave Hubbard is now on his third tour of Candid Conversations. We've talked about Mormonism in the past, and we can put those two episodes in the show notes, and you shared your testimony. There's no sequence to any of these things.
They're all pretty random.
They're all very random. If you were trying to follow a theme, don't. But Dave, you've written a book, You Are, You Will Become. And the subtitle is To Become, You Must Be Undone. Once undone, God Can Redo. It's a very intriguing title, and we'll kind of get into the specificity of that. But first of all, thanks for making your way back here and joining us on Candid Conversations.
Oh, you're very welcome. Yeah, I feel very privileged to be three-peating.
Yes, you'll go on our wall of framed celebrity guests. So, you know, as I often do with guests who have written a book, tell us a little bit about starting the writing process and what kind of spurred it on, the thought, the ideas.
This emanated from probably 40 years ago, a sermon series that I had put together of similar name and ideas with Peter, kind of a character study of Peter. And I've repeated it and kind of updated it and done different versions of it over the years, and it's always kind of rambled around in my head that I should write a book with it. And I just felt like God was really pushing me to do that. And I guess my confirmation that it was to be was when I started writing it, it just flowed.
Yeah.
It just really, really flowed. And was a lot easier than I thought it would be to get everything down on.
It's intimidating
on paper.
It
first,
is, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And I was in a good situation. I actually used someone here at Apostles that works part-time with the women's ministry who teaches at Kennesaw State, writing and so forth to oversee. My problem is I write like I speak. And so in terms of syntax and, all of that stuff, she did a great job of correcting all of that and putting things in the right orders for the reader.
Yeah,
it was fun from beginning to end. It was good to get it all out. And when you do that, it's kind of like creating a piece of art. You lay the pieces out and then you begin to fit them together.
Right.
And this goes here. Well, no, maybe not so much.
Yeah,
it's kind of a fun project.
Yeah. The content stems from a preaching series on the life of the Apostle Peter, who, as probably everyone listening to this knows, is just such a dynamic character, right? He's really in vivid color throughout the gospel, the epistles. People either identify with him or they are just don't identify with him at all.
Yes, it's a character study, and I love character studies.
Yeah.
I mean, and the Bible sets things up so perfectly for character studies, right? Because it's just book after book after book after book about the stories of people.
Yeah.
People that God has chosen to interact with in terms of the span of all that he wants to accomplish in his kingdom. And the Bible is so rich with just crazy stories. I mean, my goodness.
Right.
And then, of course, in the New Testament, or the disciples, you find yourself with the different disciples, trying to identify with one or another of them in terms of your own personal life. In other words, here's what's happened to me so far. Here's what's happening in my life.
Or your personality.
Or your personality. Yeah, who's closest to that? And for me, it was Peter. But, with that said, and I say this in the book, who else of the disciples do we know that much about? I mean, the stories of Peter are prolific. How about Timothy? Not so much. But very little.
Right.
So he really jumps off the page with his personality and with all of the different stories that he has. I would say the book is different in this respect as well. Though it's a character study of Peter, it's also a character study of me. So the different part of this book in terms of how it's written is I'm telling personal stories interwoven with Peter's stories in the trajectory of his life
finding
going forward.
Connectivity.
And finding connectivity between.
Okay, so the subtitle, To Become, You Must Be Undone. Once undone, God can redo, which of course just feels like amazing, but maybe unpack. What are we talking about when we're talking about being undone in terms of the context of spirit?
I see this biblically with the work that God does in the lives of those of the stories. There's a redo that takes place, right? So to me, it shapes up like this. We're broken to begin with, and the whole world is broken. It's not what it's supposed to be.
Right.
And because of sin, we're spiritually dead. That's problematic. Until the Spirit of God comes to live in us, we don't have the ability to really make the best decisions and always be going in the right direction for our lives.
Yeah.
Then you add on that, we become a composite of all of the people that have been in our lives up to that point.
Absolutely.
And that all really, really varies, right? It varies on where we went to school, private school, homeschool, secular school, who our teachers were.
Yeah.
I mean, my teachers in my youth were all Christians. Little country school,
Right.
Completely different paradigm today.
Right.
So you have that. Then you have when you go to work, who your bosses are. If you're in sports, as I was, who your coaches, huge influence at that point in your life.
Yeah.
Who the coaches were. So you're a composite of all of those different people in terms of their ideas and what they have inputted on the hard drive of your life.
And those people are in a culture, and that culture is in a greater setting, and so it's all it's
Yeah, and so when we meet Jesus, we come to Christ. There's a lot needs to change going forward, but then there's the old is gone, the new has come. There's an unraveling process that needs to take place to change how we think, how we act, how we react. That's the process that I'm really talking about in the becoming aspect of things in the book. And so I really think, to become, you've got to be undone. I think that for all of us, there are certain things that we kind of get stuck on. We don't want to change.
Right. Yep.
We say we do.
Embedded.
Yes. But they're deeply embedded.
Yep.
I use My Heart Cries Home illustration, which I think is one of the best. That goes way, way back. It's just a small little booklet. But the analogy there, which I really like, is that look at yourself, your heart like a house. And so when we come to Christ, we give him the master key of our life, and which says, do whatever you want with this home. You now own it. Okay. So he comes in, and initially, I think in the beginning, we're all over him making whatever changes he wants to make. That carpet's got to go. Let's take that picture down. We'll talk about what we can put up there later. Let's move some furniture around. Let's repaint that wall. It's like, you go, Jesus. That's great. You obviously, as my creator, know all of the things that need to change in my life. Yeah. But invariably, Jesus goes to open a closet. It doesn't open. Master key doesn't do anything. His eyes go up the seam of the doorpost to see a padlock's been added. Yeah. And it's like, okay, what's up with this? And I used to think that at that point, Jesus backs up down the hall, comes running, jiu-jitsu style, kicks the door down, which is his right? The home is his. Yeah. Shouldn't have been locked. But in my life, as I look at it, and I see this with Peter as well, he doesn't do that. He doesn't abuse our free agency at that point. He motivates us to give him the key. So there's a process that begins where he wants us to come around to the idea of understanding that we can't hold on to things and say, you can have all of this in my life, Jesus. That's great, but not this. and not that and not the other. He wants it and needs it all. And we need him to have it all if we really want to become all that he created us to be.
Yeah. I love that point, because you're right. The reality is he wants you to be the one to undo the padlock, right? You're right. He has the right to, and it is very vivid imagery. And then you meet people who say, this is the thing that I just was not getting over.
Yeah.
The moment that I realized and recognized whatever it was, some aspect or goodness or attribute of God that really just struck me, and I thought, why am I withholding this from him? Let's open this thing together and allow him into that. And that's when you start seeing healing, forgiveness, the restorative, reparative things that come from that, right? Because that's what his intention is all along. When we're scared, it's going to be the ripping away and the taking of things, which might be involved in it, but what we can miss out on is the tremendous benefits that are going to come from that. So many people I think of that we've sat in these chairs and had conversations with who have said, that was something I just wouldn't let go of, but once I did, it was like, oh Lord, how amazing and gracious. I can't believe I held on to this thing for so long.
Yeah, and I think the other piece to that is that it plays into what is a very damaging mindset that we unfortunately see a lot of today, which is kind of the name it, claim it, kind of the idea that when I meet Jesus and I'm a believer and I'm part of the kingdom of God, and everything's now going to just get better. I'm to become a better version of myself.
Right.
No, it doesn't really work like that. And so this undoing can be very painful.
Yeah.
We can go through some really difficult stuff that we have to go through, that God wants us to go through.
In order to be remade.
Yes, in order to be remade. It's not fun in many instances. So again, if you're rejecting the notion of that, right?
Yeah.
Then you're never even going to enter into it.
That's right.
And never get past the changing those particular issues.
Yeah, you can't redo something with patchwork. It's got to be down to the foundations and level. Look, just think about your own life, and you've been through a lot of big transitions. I mean, even thinking about a transition from playing in the NFL full time, then moving into full time ministry. How did some of those things shape your own understanding of personal transformation and calling and just even the way that you're seeing that worked out in your own life?
Yeah, I think the thing that I identified, which definitely was what was behind one of the major locked doors for Peter, was pride. And so I talk about how pride's a very subtle, subliminal kind of thing, right? That I don't think I was necessarily a prideful person
right.
When I was young. I didn't have a lot of self-confidence to begin with. Unlike my brothers who were 8 and 10 years ahead of me, who were matured athletically really, really early, just had tremendous success. I was kind of the opposite of that. I know, my coaches held on to me, I think, literally because I had if I had not had the same coaches
right.
as my brothers had, I think it would have all ended pretty early because I matured so late. Yeah. So, I think in some cases, the hypothetical thought, they're like, what are we going to do with Dave? So, well, I don't know, but don't cut him, because his brothers were great.
There's potential.
Something's going to happen here. We'll just hold on and we'll wait and see. Right. And so eventually that kind of changed. But then in college is when it really turned around. That's when I matured athletically. And then pretty quickly things really, really turned. Pretty soon I was the big man on campus. Pretty soon I was All-American. Pretty soon it will look like, I'm going to be able to be drafted and potentially play in the NFL. So then all of that begins to build. And again, the thought process is, well, that's fine because I'm a Christian, obviously, at that time. And it's like, I'm not going to let that go to my head. I'm not going to, but it does.
Yeah.
It really does.
Subliminally, yeah.
And so there were stories that I tell about there where God had to really teach me, especially if I'm going to be going into ministry, right? And that was kind of the strange thing with me. I really felt a calling to the ministry when I was in high school. There was no money for any of us to be paid to go to college. We all were scrambling, and it happened academically, and some of my brothers and sisters are musically or athletically to get college paid for. For me, had that not happened, I would have probably gone to a community college and to a Christian school and done everything, with the idea of the track to ministry.
Right.
But now all of a sudden, this is interrupted big time and that's one of the stories there where at first I was kind of in conversation with God about that. What's going on with this NFL thing?
Yeah.
Because that's kind of the opposite of ministry. And
right.
God was saying, well, no, not necessarily. That's a mission field. Yeah. And so go for it. And if it works out, that can become, something that can kind of platform you to be into other situations where you can preach and teach and so on and so forth. So, yeah.
Coming back to that word becoming, how has your perspective on becoming changed over the years as a pastor, as a person, as you've sort of seen it in your own life and the lives of others, and kind of putting all those pieces together?
Yeah, it's an ongoing process. I think it goes right up to the very end. I really do.
That's right.
Yeah, which begs the question, and I bring this out in the book as well. The question is, when we are adopted into the family of God, we're saved at that point, spiritually alive. Why doesn't God just take us home?
Right. In that moment.
Really? I mean, that's a legitimate question. Why leave me here on this mixed up mud ball, right? And have to go through all of this junk. Just take me home. Gone. So that's interesting to think about. I kind of flesh out a fictitious story there in the book of, imagine if you were an orphan. The goal of your life every day is to be adopted, right? You go down every day, maybe twice a day, is anyone shown interest, and then one day you get the notice, someone has adopted you, and oh my goodness, you can. And so you shower and clean up and dress in your best, and you go down to meet them, and they're beautiful, and hugs and kisses, and they say, well, I've got some good news and some bad news. The good news is you are legally adopted. We've signed the paperwork, paid the money, so forth. The bad news is you're going to have to stay here. Yeah, we'll visit occasionally, but it's like, what on earth? And that's kind of like God leaving us here, right? And so why? I think there's so little that we really understand about heaven, number one, about what it's really going to be like.
For sure.
And all of what's going on there. And I think there's little that we understand as God understands it of the training camp, that I would call it, that is our life up to the point that he does take us home. I believe there's specific things he wants us to go through, things he wants us to learn, lessons he wants us to learn, that are going to tie together to what our future will be eternally in heaven.
Right.
As close as I can get to understanding that, but I really think that's the case. So to answer your question, he's chosen a training camp for each of us based on where, again, for us becoming what he uniquely created us to be.
Right.
And this side of heaven, we can work a lot of that out.
Yeah.
We can work a lot of that out.
Yeah.
And he's fortunately very patient.
Yes.
Time's not a problem for him. He's more than willing to let us grind through it and figure it out, because when we do, and that small change happens, change upon change upon change, we really blossom to become something very different.
Let's talk a little bit about the format of the book, because I know one of our groups at the church is going through it. what's the best setting for this? Is it a individual just reading it? Of course, I'm sure you'll say all the above, but is it more conducive for a group reading through it together?
It's both, yeah. I mean, I really initially was writing it, to be honest with you, just as a book.
Sure.
Straight up. But at the time that I was writing it, I was assisting with small groups at Church of the Apostles, and I was visiting a lot of groups.
Yep.
And I was leading a small group, and so just seeing how wonderful that interaction is, right?
Right.
It became easy, for me to think, hey, we can do both. So in this case, rather than have a separate study guide,
right,
I just included the study guide within the book.
Right.
So the study guide's in the back, and so it's really built for both. It's built for an individual read, or it works great in a small group context with the questions built in.
Yeah. So coming back to the book a little bit, let's think about the person who's maybe listening to us and is saying, I'm feeling stuck. I'm feeling like I'm not seeing change, transformation. Maybe I'm a little resistant. What's some encouragement, some advice that you'd like to offer that is kind of fits in line with the book and kind of Peter's own example in his life?
First of all, you have to be open to the fact that in order for you to ultimately be where God wants you to be, a lot of change is going to have to take place.
Yeah.
You have not arrived yet. This is part of the false notion, I think, with some people that at the point that the Spirit of God comes to live in me, I'm done.
I'm done. Yeah.
I'm
great, but
that'd be great. Yeah. But no, there's a lot more that needs to take place. So just being open to it, that's a discipline, really. And it goes something like this. One of the sayings, I don't know who said it years and years and years ago, but I've remembered it, and I try to say this every day, kind of in my study time and prayer time. I want to give everything that I know about myself to everything I know about God. So that requires two things, right? One is I have to be super introspective about what's going on in my own life.
Yep.
Right? And a lot of those things are, again, very subtle, things that we're not necessarily picking up on. So, for example, I could be in a period where in my marriage, I'm really not listening well. I'm not looking Melinda in the eye when she's talking and listening to the extent that I'm not thinking about what I want to say next, but really listening, I could be in a period where I'm kind of cynical and snidey and saying, trying to be funny and say, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Well, that's a big thing, right? Yeah. But you can go for weeks, months, years caught in that sort of thing and not really even recognize that that's happening.
Yeah.
And your marriage is not going to progress, okay, to where it potentially can be and where you would really want it to be, unless you deal with that. So those are kind of all the little minefields that are a part of our life at work, at home, with your children, and so on and so forth. So you have to be really mindful in the sense of every day thinking through and asking God, please reveal to me what are the things that I need to be working on right now. And over time, I'm amazed at how God works. He doesn't just empty the wheelbarrow, right?
Right.
Yeah, he'll reach in and he'll pick one thing and say, okay, I think you're ready for this now. And then he'll begin to impress that, and that can happen through scriptures that you've read 1,000 times, that all of a sudden things jump off the page and you're like, oh. But so God kind of works his magic with that in your life. And then there's the part two, is you have to give that over. Right. So, okay, I want to know everything about myself. Then I want to give it to everything I know about God as far as that's concerned. So that process, that battle, that interaction really has to be a discipline. It has to be a daily thing. Yeah. And, there's times when I weary of that and will say, well, just let that go for a few months and I'll get back to it.
Right. Yeah. Not just yet.
It's a little too personal right now. Yeah.
What about someone else?
Yeah.
Maybe someone else go. No, that's really great insights and helps, being able to investigate our own soul and personality and those things that do make us who we are, and look at them honestly, and then be willing to say, I think I need change here.
Yeah.
And I'm not, it's not as you said earlier, a better version of myself. I'm just trying to refine that and get better at that, but rather handing it over and saying, Lord, give me a more of who you are in that, and to replace that. Yeah.
And so the crazy thing with Peter, with that, just in thinking about that, is he's with Jesus every day
in person
for 3 years,
right?
Okay, in this small little band of brothers, and still, it takes him a long time to get to the bottom of what it is, what the big issue that Jesus needs to unlock and get into that room to fix, with him. And of course, a lot of that has to do with how confused they were, right, with what they thought the Messiah was there to do, what they hoped the Messiah was there to do.
Right.
And so you get some really crazy situations.
Right.
And it's like, and almost as you're reading the story, it's like you're watching a movie, where someone's sneaking up on somebody, I don't know if you've been in a movie, and you hear some people you'll shout out, and he goes,
"Watch out.
He's in the next room."
Right, yeah.
Yeah, right.
I hear you.
Right. And so you find yourself doing that with Peter. It's like, Peter,
yeah.
Come on now.
For sure.
No, don't go there.
Don't say that.
Yeah. I mean, one of my favorites is when they're in the upper room, right? And Jesus, he's been telling them, I'm going to die. All right? They're going to crucify me. And they totally miss it. And in two paragraphs, they're talking about which of them is going to be greater. And the kid was like, oh my gosh.
You've not listened to anything.
Yeah. And so part of that, I play off too there, which is really the start of the book, is the whole name change thing, which I find really, really fascinating. Yes. And so for Simon, his original name's Simon. He says he's going to change. I mean, that's one of the most bizarre introductions of all time to me. Yeah. He walks up and says, you are Simon, the son of Jonah or son of John, you will become Peter. I'm like, okay, wait a minute. What? Yeah. And so then Peter has to be wondering when is that going to happen?
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
That's a big deal. He said he's going to change my name. When is it going to happen? It doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. And then it happens at the point that he makes the proclamation.
In Philippi, yeah.
And in Philippi, you are the Christ, the Son of the living God. And Jesus says, well done, Peter. And so at that point, Peter's, I think that's where his head just swells. And he's like, yes, I have arrived.
Yep.
I'm there. Listen to what he just said about me, and it couldn't be better because it was said in front of all of my peers.
Hear it, yeah,
and everybody got to hear it, and and all the rest, and then
he calls him another name.
Immediately, he's like rebuking Jesus. It's just you just can't believe it. Yeah. So, and of course, all of that leads to become you have to be undone, right? And he just had to be. Yeah. Keep going until it finally got to the bottom of it all.
Well, and the funny thing is, Peter's thing goes all the way past resurrection and ascension to where he's being rebuked by Paul in Galatians.
True, yeah.
Which is an ongoing work of Christ.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Informing Peter, you're not done yet.
Right.
To your point, right? You haven't arrived. There's
great point. Yeah, that's right.
Journey.
It's still going on. Yeah, it's still happening.
Dave, you're obviously you're such a great and gifted storyteller. You have great humor. Is there any kind of story that kind of came out of this? Maybe you've already shared one with us, but something that kind of in your own life that sort of gave a reflection of the life of Peter that just really resonated, obviously, with you and maybe with some of the early readers?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest ones I had alluded to earlier, which I'm happy to tell, was the one in the NFL, where that, I'm probably at the height of, oh my gosh, this is all happening to me and it's great. And it's, it's people at that point, and the idea of you're going to have the opportunity to play in the NFL, and it becomes a big, you become really full of yourself. And it's almost like you can't help it based on everything that's happening around you.
Sure,
Right?
it's all around you.
And that started to kind of become confusing really with the draft. It's funny, I was looking, I follow it just a little bit just to keep up. And back then, there's only 7 rounds now, right? Yeah. Back then it was 12, which is interesting. And I just found this out because I think I did a ChatGPT during the draft. The year before, it was 17.
The year before you got drafted?
Yes.
Wow.
17 rounds, which I can't even fathom.
Were the team sizes the same? Were they a little bigger?
It was back
Just
then.
more cutting,
It was 48. Now it's 53. So it was less.
Okay.
Yeah, and so which is really crazy. And they didn't have like taxi squad like they do now. Have like that other, where they kind of put on the side and they practice but they don't play. So if somebody gets injured, they can pull them. Yeah. So very different. And the crazy part about pro, I mean, with college. Of course, that's all changed with the portal and everything. But with college, you're getting a scholarship and you're being brought in. And back when I played, when that happens, you're going to be there for 4 years. Okay?
Right.
So you're not competing for your job every day.
Right.
Because you're going to be there. It's a matter of just get better.
Sure.
With pro, my statement would be this. With few exceptions, with an exceptionally talented athlete, in his particular position, there's no reason why through a training camp I'm going to be chosen above the active player who's been there at least a year, right? Because he has at least a year of experience on me.
Right.
So that means that ultimately you're going to be replacing him on potential.
Yep.
They're going to be saying he's not as good as yet, but I think he will be better then. So it's a very, So when I came into camp, there were 110 athletes that had to be down to 47 in 6 weeks.
Gosh, yeah.
So that kind of sets up the story because you're there. Our training camp was in Vero Beach, Florida, which is insane, in July and August. I mean, the big guys, we would lose.
You lost a lot of weight. Yeah.
Oh, I'd lose 16 to 18 pounds of practice. Ugh. It was mostly, water weight. And you didn't really want to eat. It was just crazy. And so you're in a room with one other athlete, typically someone that you don't know, and it's a room about the size of this room almost. Bathroom, 2 beds, nightstand between, not much of a closet, and that's it. And because you're studying most of the time and you're out practicing and in meetings and all the rest. Yeah. And on the nightstand, there's a phone. Okay. That phone only rings for one reason. One of you's gone.
Yeah. Oh, boy.
Okay. Yeah. So it's so ridiculous. Yeah. Right. So here's the 2 of you. There's the phone. Nobody wants the phone to ring. Nobody certainly wants to answer the phone. So we're going through training camp, again, 110 to begin with, and it's working its way down. So we've got 6 weeks of this, of training camp when all the decisions are going to be made is down to the 48. Well, we're down to the last, week and a half, 2 weeks, and all of the offensive linemen are still there. So they've made cuts like crazy across the board in these different positions, but not necessarily offensive line. So I knew that this was going to be getting down to it where they've got to make those decisions. So it was a Monday morning. I didn't feel good. I just woke up. Something was wrong. I didn't feel good. And so we're doing a drill. I know they're concentrating on the offensive line this week because Hank Stram was there. Other coaches were there that normally wouldn't be in our drills. And so this was a drill where you step out and he blows a whistle. You keep your feet moving. You're supposed to deliver a blow on the bag. It's just you. and do it as technically correct as possible. And so I'm doing that, and I'm like 10 seconds in, and evidently, which I did, I felt at that point like I just, something went completely wrong, and I'm like in a daze, in a haze. I could hear the coach as if speaking through a tunnel down, going, Hubbard, what's the matter with you? Don't stop your feet. Don't quit on me. You've never quit on me. You know, kind of. So I'm hearing that, but what they're saying is I'm literally like this. I'm just standing like this.
Hovering.
Yeah, and the coach said he comes over, grabs my helmet, looks, my face is white as a sheet.
Yeah.
He pulls my helmet off. I'm hyperventilating. They get a paper bag.
Yeah.
I'm breathing into the bag. Ambulance is coming. And before I know it, I'm in the Vero Beach Hospital. And I notice I'm in a very special room. It's different. I've been in hospitals before, but this is different. Because in this room, a little bit larger than some of the other rooms, had my own bathroom in the room, there was a glass window that anyone entering the room, nurse, doctor, whatever, put on the equivalent of a hazmat suit before they came in. And I'm like, oh my goodness.
Where am I?
What is going on, right? So they tell me I've been diagnosed, I have dysentery.
Good grief.
Okay, which I didn't really know what dysentery was. I found out very quickly. I didn't really know what dysentery was. And yeah, and so here's what came off of that, which is interesting. Nobody really knows this or knew. Literally the year before, the Miami Dolphins it was the first time that this had ever happened or potential of it happening, almost lost their entire season. In other words, it would have been, we're shutting the whole thing down.
The program, yeah.
Yeah, because there was a line that leached or something, the water drinking out on the field or whatever, and one got it, dysentery, another got it, another got it, another got it, pretty soon the whole, yeah. And so, so far it's just me. How crazy is that, right? It's like, what on earth? You got to be kidding me. How is that even possible? So it's just me. And I say, well, when do I get out of here? And they say, well, every strand's different. So we have to culture this. And to the extent that we can culture this, find out exactly what it is, then we can come up with the medication. Then you got to get on the medication, and then you got so I was in there for a week.
Jeez.
I lost 37 pounds.
Oh, yeah.
This is crazy.
Yeah.
I'm trying to make the team. You realize how hard I've worked up to this point to put on the weight, the muscle, and it's all going away.
Yeah.
And I'm like, so I'm at that point, which you'll see sometimes scripturally, where I'm really angry with God. Where there's what movie was it? I think it was Open Range, where the line is, God and I aren't on good terms right now, kind of a thing. We're not speaking,
right?
Yeah, so that's what it was like.
Right.
No, we're not talking to each other right now. Right. And so I was like, no, I'm God. I'm not talking to you. I'm upset with you. I don't understand what's going on here. And so that happened. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. It was finally Thursday is when it broke, and I was just emotionally a wreck. I'm, crying and trying to think through what, everything. It seems like everything's crashing and burning around me. And so I'm like, okay, God, all right, let's talk, because this is making no sense to me whatsoever. And here's what happened in that moment, because it's almost at that point like God is speaking to you, And it's kind of like Job, where he just asks questions. God just starts asking some really good questions, And one of the questions was, how many roommates have you had? That's an interesting question. It turns out, long story short, that I had more roommates than anybody else. In other words, more guys had gotten cut along the way than anybody else in any other situation. So, which, again, the phone would ring, it's for you. It's just that whole process. So, okay. And then the hammer blow question. How many of those roommates, future Pastor Dave, did you share Christ with? did you even talk about me? Did you even know that you were a Christian?
Right.
And the answer was 0.
Yeah.
I had my Bible, I put it like underneath the bed,
Yeah.
right? So that no one, because again, all those, right? I don't want he's the Christian, I don't want anything to mess up my odds of making the team. And as I thought back, I had one guy who was, I think, going through a divorce, one of the roommates, and as much had asked me, what must I do to be saved, kind of in the conversationally, and I'm doing everything I can to avoid. It's just, so that was that was a real, to answer your question, that was my undoing in that sense, to where, and so I equate that to Peter's denying Christ, right? There's a lot of different ways to deny Christ.
Yeah, there are. Yeah.
Yeah. Not just by saying I don't know him.
Yeah.
Which in this case was kind of what I was doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, and of course it turns out, after that, the next day they get it, they get the medicine, get out, and I go back and I made the team because they had already chose that I would make the team. It's like yeah. So again, all of that was totally unnecessary.
Right.
Why did it happen?
Right. Yeah.
It happened because, it was a specific thing that God needed to put me through so that I could become what I said I wanted to become and what He created me to be.
Yeah. Amazing. Well, Dave, the book is You Are, You Will Become, looking at the life of Simon Peter, Dave Hubbard. It's always such a privilege and a joy to have you on Candid Conversations. Thanks for coming by.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining us today. If you found this conversation helpful, please share it with somebody who might benefit. Subscribe so that you never miss an episode, and leave a review so that others can find us. We'll see you next week.